We are going to look at Isaac Trotter's tiers. He wrote an article this week from 247sports.com, and these are the teams that he dubs the national championship contenders. Get a look at them there. We've got Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Houston, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Gonzaga, Marquette, Illinois, and Florida. All right, well, without further ado, here is Isaac Trotter himself to help break down these teams that Isaac views as the real national championship contenders. So, Trotter, let's get right into it. Who is your favorite at this point?
Yeah, for me, I think it's Duke and Auburn, but I think it's an interesting conversation right now is surrounding Tennessee because they were the last unbeaten team. They go to Florida and they get trounced, and everyone goes, well, can they win the title? Should we talk about them differently? I think I went back and watched that tape. Tennessee got great shots in that game. They had outstanding looks from Chaz Lanier that he just missed. They had outstanding looks from Zakai Ziegler, just missed. So I'm still bullish on the Vols. Their defense is terrific. Jemai Mashak and Zakai Ziegler, two of the best perimeter defenders in college basketball. Felix Okpara, the terrific rim protector on the back end. I still think that Tennessee has a ceiling that very few other teams possess in college basketball, even after that loss to Florida. That just might be a sign of the times in the SEC, which is just absolutely loaded this year. Winning on the road is going to be awfully tough.
All right, Trotter, I'm not sure if you were aware, but that was a 30-point game at Florida. So just pointing out the obvious. I will say, though, all kidding aside, Tennessee currently has a top 3 defense in the country. This would be the 4th consecutive year that Rick Barnes' club finished at that mark, and it would be 5 consecutive years that he finished with a top 5 defense. So year in and year out, their defense is as good as it gets. It is just a matter of if the offense can keep up, and that is certainly the question. All right, Trotter, I am going with the Duke Blue Devils. You've heard me say this before. I think they are 2 possessions away from being undefeated. Of course, those losses came to Kentucky and Kansas. In the Kentucky game, it was Cooper Flagg who wasn't able to convert in a late game scenario. In the Kansas game, it was Con Kneppel. But since then, they have not only beaten Auburn at home, but they are blowing everybody out. And I'm talking about 6 20-point wins in a row. This team has the #1 defense in the country. They have the #9 offense in the country. And the point that I think is maybe most relevant here in Jon Scheyer's 3rd year, their shot distribution this year is better than it has ever been. Only about 35% of their shots came from behind the 3-point line last year. It's just hard to win in modern college basketball without that. That number is up over 10 percentage points this year. So they are taking more threes than ever. They have arguably their best defensive team yet. My only concern, quite frankly, is that late game practice, if you will. I think they're going to blow so many people out in the ACC. There's not going to be a whole lot of growing opportunities for those freshmen to work on the late game situations. But what are your thoughts on Jon Scheyer's club?
I think Zion James has been one of the most underrated transfer portal additions in the country. He has a plus 43 net rating when he's on the floor. They inserted him into the starting lineup. And the point about the threes is huge. Duke is shooting over 14 unguarded catch and shoot threes per game this year. That ranks 3rd best in college basketball, just behind Alabama, who's #2, and UTRGV, who's #1. So this group is generating a ton of open threes. Zion James is a huge reason why. He makes terrific decisions, just spraying the ball right where he needs to go. He's a terrific screener too, and he's a dog defensively as well. So Flagg gets the spotlight, the shooting gets a spotlight, but James has been a terrific transfer portal scout, and he's just fit in perfectly with that club.
No doubt about that. Now, Trotter, in addition to those 11 clubs you dubbed the national championship favorites, you've also pinpointed some teams that you think have a chance to make a run, even if they are not in that top group. Take a look at some of the teams here that you consider on the doorstep.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by what Arizona is doing right now because it was kind of a mess early in the season, but they have really changed some of their offensive lineups and their personnel. Carter Bryant moving to the 4, Henry Visar getting a shot at the 5. Shooting was always going to be a concern with this group, even in the preseason. That was their biggest question mark. But both of those guys have opened the paint up a little bit. Carter can really shoot it a little bit. Visar is a stretch 5 who can attack long closeouts, gives them just a little bit of a different look. And it's opened the paint for KJ Lewis. It's opened the paint for Caleb Love and Jaden Bradley to kind of get in there into the rim. So Arizona is a lesson of let's not overreact to some of the early season results, because Tommy Lloyd has really started to continue to tinker with his lineups. And this group, don't look now, 3 of the next 5 games are at home. They have a road game at Oklahoma State. they could easily be 7-1 in the Big 12 and at the very top of the pecking order. Like, this is a legit team that can win the Big 12 and can go on a serious run in March. And I think the tweaked lineup is a big reason why.
All right, now one of the things that you can expect from this show every week when we come to you on Friday is a preview of some of the most important college games on tap in the coming weekend. And Trotter, we've got a busy weekend coming up, and the first one that I want to ask you about is Kentucky and Mark Pope. I said Mark Pope should be a strong Coach of the Year candidate, but they have a tall task ahead of them here in the next 24 hours.
Big time game against Mississippi State. And I think both of these two teams are legit national title contenders. We talk about Kentucky like that. We haven't talked about Mississippi State like that yet. So this is going to be a fascinating game. Kentucky is one of the best dribble handoff offenses in the sport. You better know how you're guarding their pin downs into dribble handoffs. And Mississippi State counters with a terrific defense headlined by Cam Matthews, who I think is a National Defensive Player of the Year contender. But I'm really fascinated by the other end of this. Josh Hubbard against this Kentucky defense. Lead guards against Kentucky have kind of gone off lately. We've seen Elijah Martin, he had 26. Walter Clayton went off for 33. Bruce Thornton had a 30-point game, right? Chucky Hepburn from Louisville had a big-time game. If I'm Josh Hubbard, I'm licking my chops, being like, I'm going to get a lot of one-on-one coverages against defenders that I think I can beat. We'll see if he can be up to the task against Lamont Butler. And then the other subplot of this game is Kentucky's bigs on both ends. They have to rebound, and they have to make great decisions with the ball in their hands, because this Mississippi State defense loves to trap and get to force turnovers. Lamont Butler is the lead guard, but if he gets it inside to Andrew Carr, Amari Williams, Brandon Garrison, those guys have to make terrific decisions, and they cannot let Mississippi State get going on the offensive glass. If the Bulldogs and Chris Jans are getting double-digit offensive rebounds, I think they win. So this is going to be a terrific back-and-forth brawl. I think Kentucky keeps it really close, but give me the SEC team at home. I think Mississippi State finds a way to get this one done.
All right, important subjects to note there. Kentucky leads the country in ball security offense, so if Mississippi State can't turn them over, that's going to be an interesting subplot. And then Lamont Butler, you mentioned him. He's such a good individual defender. Let's see if he can raise the level of his game to start shutting down some opposing guards. All right, Trotter, TJ Otzelberger and Iowa State have been one of the very best teams in college basketball this year. In fact, their only loss is in Hawaii, and that was a 2-point decision to Auburn. They are on the road as well. They are at Texas Tech. What do we need to know about this one?
You know, Texas Tech had a come-to-Jesus moment a couple weeks ago where they lost to UCF. The practices after that ramped up to a whole new level under Grant McCasland. He was not happy with their defensive execution. This is a huge spot for Texas Tech to show that they are one of those elite teams that can live up to some of those metrics. They're in my tier 3 of a dark horse that can win the title, but I think this is a game at home that they have to have. How do you do it? I think their transition defense has to be terrific. Iowa State's transition offense last year averages 13 points a game. They've completely revamped their game plan on that, and they're running more than ever before, averaging over 21 points in transition. That's one of the top marks in the sport. Keyshawn Gilbert's like a one-man fast break, and then Curtis Jones, you better find him or he's going to shred the nets from downtown as well. So Texas Tech has to be on point with their transition defense. How do you do that? Getting buckets. And that's what I think this Texas Tech offense has. Like, they have a chance to be one of the top 5 offenses in the sport because they can beat you in so many ways. It's Elijah Hawkins and pick and rolls. You know, Chance McMillian, I think, is one of the top 5 shooters in the sport. Just a terrific deadeye. JT Toppin inside has to have a really big game as well, too, against an Iowa State front line that I think is a little bit undersized and a little bit different. I think Iowa State's interior defense last year was elite. This year, it's really good. And that's like the difference, I think, between this group. So if JT Toppin can be the best big on the floor, I think Texas Tech is going to win this game.
Iowa State, one of just 2 teams, along with Duke, who rates in the top 10 in both offense and defense. Trotter, last but not least, Alabama on the road at Texas A&M. What's the scoop on this one?
I like Alabama, and Texas A&M allows the most unguarded catch-and-shoot threes of any high major team. That's not necessarily the winning strategy against an Alabama team that they haven't necessarily shot it well from 3 this year, but we know they're capable, right? Mark Sears can get it going. Aiden Holloway can get it going. Chris Youngblood as well, too. So this is going to be a war on the glass as well. Both of these teams love to get after it. The athleticism, the size, the length, the speed in this game is going to be nuts. But Wade Taylor's status looms really large. He had a knee injury, sat out against Oklahoma. Zurich Phelps really carried them in that road win over Oklahoma. He has to be awesome if Wade Taylor is sidelined in this one. But I like Alabama. I think they're going to generate just enough threes, and Texas A&M has too many pockets offensively where they just don't score.